Can you air layer pines? I don't think I've ever been this excited about a few white dots in a piece of plastic. It means that the air layer is successful. But let's start from the beginning. Let's go back to earlier this year when I put the air layer in place, when I wired this out and I started the whole process. And I will get some tools together while you watch that, and I'll plant it in a pot and explain how to treat it further and separate it in spring. Now, before we delve into the start of this video, did it root? Yes, it did root, but I did something stupid, and that is the reason why it is now brown. If you can spot what I did wrong in the video, plop it down in the comments and let me know. Now, this is a Mugo pine. This is a branch, just as a security. When I styled this tree, I didn't want the whole tree to die if this would die, so I left it on. It's going to be cut off at some point. But let's use this and see how well do these air layer. I'm first going to make sure that this becomes interesting deadwood, so I'm going to pull this area into here, going to wire out the branch, going to put an air layer on, and then let's see how this develops over the next year or maybe 2 years. Now there's a nice tension wire here keeping this curve in place, and these two branches have now come up more. I'm going to very quickly put a little bit of aluminium wire on it. I'm not going to wire out the whole tree, and then I'm going to leave it alone for maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks before I put the layer itself on. I really want this to first settle in its new shape a little bit, so there's no stress here anymore when I start cutting. Just like any other air layer, just removing the bark all around. In this case I'm going to use a little bit of rooting hormone, and then I'm wrapping it all up in sphagnum moss, and I will see how long it will take for this to root, if it roots at all. Now stories go from a few weeks to a few years. I'm not going to wait a few years. If it doesn't root in the next year or so, I'm going to cancel this air layer and just remove the whole branch. I'm not sure how long this is going to take. Just going to try it. Sphagnum is supposed to reduce rotting, keeps it nice and moist though. And apparently pine, Mugo pine, this is, responds well to it. Using a little bit of wire here to keep the sphagnum in place while I wrap it up. It should sit nice, comfortably all around. With the glossy plastic it's very difficult to tell, but right there is a white root tip and there is another one as well. So who knows what else might be in there. It is the end of October, so it is now really quite late to separate air layers. And normally I would not worry too much, but to be honest, this is the very first pine air layer that I am completely happy with, that really has rooted. So I'm not going to take any risks. So I'm just going to unwrap it, if I can figure out where the other piece of wire is that connects this. There it is. And I'm going to show you the roots. And I am not going to separate it now. I'm just going to put a pot around it with substrate. I'm going to peel away most of the sphagnum. And then in spring I hope that it has rooted completely in the pot. And at the optimal repotting time, around May, June, I'm going to separate it and make it an individual plant. I think that's too big a risk to do now, because I don't know how pines respond over winter. Now you can see much clearer that there's a white dot here, and there's a little white root coming out here as well. So now I have to be very gentle. I don't know how many roots, I don't know how many roots are in here. So look at that, all these roots here. It could still be just a singular root coming from the main branch, but I'm going to gently remove some of this moss. Because I don't want to have to remove it later on when I'm potting it up. So I'm doing this very gently and seeing how far I can go without breaking any roots. Maybe I'll uncover more roots. That'd be really cool. There's the little metal wire that I put around it to hold the sphagnum in place. So maybe if I remove this, the whole thing will come off. No, it's quite stable. There we go. Interestingly, it has rooted on the top instead of at the bottom of the cut. I would have expected the opposite. Goes to show. Now the rest of the moss seems to be stuck in the roots. And I'll leave that in place here, close to the connection. Just cleaning up the long strands that still sit here. Might take some cutting. No, comes off. This is very, very delicate, gentle work, this, right? Don't rush this process. In fact, most people just leave the moss on and take it off at a later stage. I'm not most people. There we go. Now I have a pot which I've cut open, and I've made a hole in the bottom of the pot, and I'm just going to try to work this around the whole area here and just get the whole part with the roots nice and well enclosed into the root, into the pot. And then I'll need to find a way to put it all in place. Right, and now I've made little holes here in the bottom of the rim, and I can just put the wire through here and through the other hole, and this way I close the pot on the top. And I can also hang this. Now I also have a little hole here at the bottom, and I go through there as well. Fold it over and tighten this around the main trunk. This way the pot rim will stay up a little bit more, and now I can just fill it up with coarse substrate for this to root in. And particularly towards the bottom of the pot, coarse is important, otherwise it will just fall out. I can't fill the whole pot because of the position it's in. And I just need to make sure that the new roots are covered with substrate. And with that, it's all set for winter, and I hope that in spring this pot will be pretty filled with roots, and then I can just cut it off and plant it up, and that's for you in a couple of seconds. Alright, it's April, it's warm, it's sunny, the buds are swelling. I am really unsure what I'm doing here. I really don't know what the roots look like, and I don't know whether it's the right time to separate, but some friends of me said, yeah, this should be about right. Guess I'm opening it up, looking at the roots, and then making the cut. Mind you, normally I'd not be making the cut after opening it up. I would prefer to cut it off and then open it up because you have more control over what's happening. But I really don't know what the roots did over winter, and I don't want to now cut it off to find out that all the roots died over winter. So I am going to open it up first and then see what the next step is. very dry. Really will have to come off, I suppose. So this is what I was worried about. These roots, they don't look very healthy right now. Well, these root tips, they are waking up. There's a little bit of life in them. Yeah, let's just take the risk. It's not a lot of roots. And now I'm just going to use this pot that I've left here, the old air layering substrate, and just slide it in and leave it alone. Just going to plant it in the greenhouse where it's nice and warm and no wind, and then keep it nice and humid. Alright, it's summer. Clearly I was wrong to separate. That is the mistake I made. And the mistake I made was I separated it even though I could have seen that the roots that formed last year had not started to grow. And they've now actually just rotted away, the whole tree died, and this is now not a success. But it had roots. The roots were growing. Over winter part of the roots died, but there were new growing tips. So I should have just left it on for another year. I could have put another pot on or anything. But yeah, I just wanted to separate this because I want to finish the other tree. The other tree is now finished. Yes, indeed, the video will come out soon. But therefore my impatience resulted in a failed air layer. It's not all that bad because it's not an important tree to me. Still, it is a shame. This could have been a really, really nice little twin trunk, yeah, windswept bonsai tree. Live and learn, more patience. Impatience kills trees. This was Jelle. How to layer a Mugo pine and still be non-successful. See you next time.